This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtuo Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your Virtuo Pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
Welcome back to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings you can listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Monday, July 22nd. And sorry, we couldn't record this any earlier this past weekend because Drew was down at Disneyland. Taking a well-deserved break, hanging out with friends, and also checking out that new Walt Disney A Magical Life show at the Main Street Opera House.
That's right.
Okay, and that's presented in rotation with the old Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln thing, right?
It's not rotating yet, but that's the plan eventually, as far as I know. Right now, it's all Walt Disney, and it was virtual queue for about a day and a half, but is now just a walk-up.
Okay.
So there were plenty of empty seats in my theater on Sunday afternoon, I will say that.
All right, so let's talk about this show, which is off to an interesting start, at least based on the social media reaction. What did you think?
I thought it was interesting. I'm still sort of puzzling through it. Most of the show is one man stream from Florida, with a new narration by Bob Iger, who should not quit his day job. I will say that.
Okay.
And then, it's like 3.5 minutes of the animatronic. And I don't know, it was interesting that the movie kept reinstating how technologically forward-thinking he was and how he pushed the limits of storytelling. And then the animatronic is basically, it's a variation on the Lincoln idea, which was introduced in 1964. It's like, I don't know, my wife was saying that they maybe could have recreated that moment we've all seen where he's kind of talking to the tiki bird on the Sunday night show.
Oh.
But it's really just him in this, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been a cool thing to have him actually interact with another animatronic, but it's literally him in this weird little set that's supposed to, they say, is evocative of both his actual office and the office from the Sunday night television show. You don't get any of that. He's sort of leaning against a card table sized, table. And it's just a little odd. I don't think the quote they chose was that inspiring. The twinkle that they had in previews where it would be this kind of laser effect in his eye is gone.
Okay.
And the other thing that really annoyed me was when you walk out, there's kind of this blue sky wall of things to come. And they took down one of my favorite photos of Jim Henson that was part of that kind of exitway with all those kind of inspiring figures.
Yeah.
All of that is gone now, which I really dislike. So, yeah. I mean, it's very much worth watching, but it was sort of a puzzling decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting, again, I have not seen this show in person yet, but have watched a couple of videos of it, and especially one from way back in the theater. And the interesting thing is, from a distance, the program of the audio animatronic figure is actually pretty impressive. I just think in close-up, what's the old gag from Muppet Vision that they should move it to Pittsburgh? If you're far enough back, it looks really good.
Right. Blaine Gibson has been dead a while now, Jim. That's what I really took away from that.
Blaine Gibson. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for checking that out while you were down at the park. Did you get to do anything else while you were there, or anything for the 70th?
We walked around. We had some tacos. It was kind of a low key day, but just nice to be back in the park. Yeah, the 70th is kind of a befuddling anniversary this year. Remember the 60th where they had the Hatbox Ghost, and they redid Peter Pan, and they redid the Matterhorn.
Yeah.
This one is like, well, we put an extra verse in It's a Small World.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we were all just waiting for that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, anyway, totally changing the subject here. Again, reminder, Drew and I are recording this week's Fine Tuning on Monday, July 23rd, which means preview night at this year's Comic-Con International, which is held annually down at the San Diego Convention Center, is now mere hours away. Traditionally gets underway on Wednesday night with the Comic-Con proper not officially open to Thursday morning and then running to Sunday afternoon. Of course, the real highlight of this year's event, I mean, sure, there's stuff going on in Hall H, but if you really want to attend a truly entertaining and informative presentation, you need to be in room 6DE starting at 4:15 this Friday, July 25th. That is when my co-host, the delightful Drew Taylor, will be moderating the Godzilla at 70 panel, which will take a look back at the past 7 decades when it comes to the King of the Monsters. And anything new on that presentation?
Nothing I can announce, but I can say that there's going to be some great surprises. So if you want a first look at the next kind of era of Godzilla, definitely come by. And there's going to be some good stuff. So definitely stop on by.
Well, speaking of Godzilla, did you see this Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe series of comics that just got launched?
Yes. Yeah, Godzilla's been destroying a lot, Jim. He destroyed LA. He destroyed, not that we needed the help, but he destroyed the DC universe. And now he's attacking the Marvel universe. It's crazy.
Yeah. And what I love about the timing of this is the first issue of this crossover event has the Fantastic Four being the first in the scene when Godzilla begins leveling Manhattan. And with Fantastic Four, the first steps arriving in theaters this Friday, July 25th. Someone on the promotion side of Disney or Marvel must have made this happen. That timing can't be by accident. By the way, have you seen this Matt Shackman movie yet?
I'm going tonight, Jim. This podcast is putting in jeopardy my ability to stay awake for the premiere tonight at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which is kind of fun.
Oh, how cool!
That's where the premiere is. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
but I was at Disneyland yesterday thinking about it because remember when they announced that the Fantastic Four were going to be meeting people in Tomorrowland and that robot was going to be there and everything, and we haven't heard peep about that since.
Yeah. Tomorrowland, is a giant question mark in regard to Disneyland, which we'll get to on some future show. But anyway, speaking of movies involving superheroes, heard some interesting stuff about Disney's reaction to Warner Brothers' Superman movie doing as well as it did over weekend 2 at the domestic box office. We'll get the specific numbers in a moment. But what I'm hearing is that the mouse is actually pleased that Superman, at least in North America, box office only fell off by 54%. So that to Disney supposedly indicates that superhero movie fatigue is no longer a thing. Are you hearing something to that effect?
I mean, I was not there, but there was a very frank conversation that Kevin Feige had with journalists on Friday on the Disney lot, where I think they're assessing a lot of things at this point after a few movies that disappointed. But I'm really excited about Fantastic Four. It seems to kind of tonally be in the same kind of register as Superman, which I think will help as well.
Well, here's hoping. I'm very much looking forward to that. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about Superman in a second, but first we have to acknowledge our sponsor, which is UnlockMagic.com, which is where you can get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlock Magic is the exact same team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. So just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and then you're on your way with more cash to spend on, who knows, movie tickets. Okay, back to this past weekend's box office. James Gunn's Superman continued to dominate the domestic box office, still number one in North America, 57 million in ticket sales in that territory. That brings its stateside gross to date to 235 million, with an additional 171 overseas, so worldwide box office of 406. Meanwhile, Jurassic World Rebirth just started its third week in theaters. 23 million North American ticket sales. That puts this Gareth Edwards movie at 276 in North America to date. And if you add the 371 that this fourth film in the Jurassic World series has made so far overseas, that puts his Universal Pictures worldwide gross at 647 million. On the other hand, that's considerable. On the other hand, this past weekend's newer releases, Sony, I Know What You Did This Summer, and Smurfs, didn't do all that great at the North American box office. They only sold 13 million and 11 million worth of tickets, respectively, domestically. And I heard from a mutual friend, Drew, that the folks at Pixar are in a weird sort of way happy that Smurfs ticket sales were as low as they were for their opening weekend, supposedly because that means by the end of the summer, Smurfs will have a far lower domestic box office total than Elio. But the problem with that for me is Paramount only spent 58 million on Smurfs, whereas depending on who you talk to up at Emeryville, they either spent $50 million on Elio or $200 million on Elio. So the math there's a little interesting. On the other hand, you talk with the folks at Disney, they would prefer that we not talk about Elio at all and would rather point to the live action version of Lilo and Stitch, which this past week became the 58th film in Hollywood's history to sell 1 billion worth of tickets worldwide. And also, Disney seems very pleased with the reaction to the Hopper trailer. And now, you got to see the footage last year at the studio presentation at D23.
Yeah, I mean, there was like I don't know, a minute of footage at D23, but I've seen a considerable amount from the Annecy presentation this year. They showed a number of full sequences, including that sequence where the bear eats the beaver and she saves it, which is so funny in the trailer. But I am all in on Hoppers. I think it's going to be absolutely wonderful. And I thought that trailer was great. I don't know how you felt about it.
No, I thought it was a great trailer. And what's interesting is that folks at Disney are already pointing to the fact that, if you take the numbers that the Hopper teaser trailer did during its first 3 days and compare them to how the Elio teaser trailer did, I mean, it's double the numbers.
Oh, I think it had more views than the Elio trailer had in its first 7 months.
Oh,
so
okay. Well, yeah. There we go.
Yeah. And also, I know I don't want to cross over into I Want That, but the consumer products program on this thing is, shall we say, robust, Jim. So save some space for a plush beaver on your mantelpiece.
I will. All right. And now a reminder, Hoppers arrives in theaters March 6, 2026. And there's 3 months and 2 weeks after that, we get Toy Story 5, which, speaking of a robust merchandise program, that shows up in theaters June 19th, 2026. And not to get ahead of themselves, but the folks at Disney, well, they're also hoping, what is it? Avatar, Fire and Ash. That seems to be a lock on the $1 billion earner club. But the other thinking is we know that's going to make $1 billion, and we know Toy Story 5 is going to make $1 billion.
There's also a little movie coming out in Thanksgiving, Jim, called Zootopia 2, which will also probably make $1 billion.
Though, that said, I wanted to ask about, what do you think? I think the Tron Ares trailer looks amazing. But yeah. What do you think the chances are there? Is this finally going to be the one that breaks through?
I don't know. I don't know who. I mean, I thought that trailer looked great. I thought, obviously, the Nine Inch Nails song is a banger. Getting a lot of play on Spotify. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Jared Leto of it all is a big question mark. But I am really, really excited about it. I love the director, Joachim Roning. He's wonderful. He did Young Woman in the Sea and a bunch of other things for Disney. So I'm hoping it follows through. But the idea of the Tron world interacting with our world is just delicious.
Oh,
to me.
no, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And what's interesting is chatting with friends at the studio. I mean, it's just the effect of, we finally got it right. We finally figured out how to do this.
Right.
And that coupled with evidently what this meant from a budget point of view, this is kind of the Tron Wrath of Khan, that they feel like, it's the right film at the right price point that's finally going to engage an audience outside of Tron fans. So we will see.
It is interesting because it's the first Tron movie without some kind of insane visual effects breakthrough, which, the first movie had CGI extensively used for the first time. The second one had the digital de-aging of Jeff Bridges. This one, they're like, you know what? We don't need to do a crazy CGI breakthrough. We're just going to have an entertaining movie, and that's going to be enough. So
Go figure. Go figure. Now, speaking of making $1 billion at the box office, well, again, that's what Margot Robbie's Barbie movie did back in 2023. Mind you, again, live action take on it, but it did sell $1.4 billion worth of tickets worldwide. So knowing that, it's not exactly a surprise that Illumination and Mattel are now partnering to create a Barbie animated movie. And now it won't be the first. There have been 43 Barbie home premieres, with the first of these animated direct-to-video films, Barbie in the Nutcracker, being released back in 2001, just in time for the holiday season. But this time around, this is an animated film for theatrical release, right? And after that, digital download, streaming, physical media, the usual. But this is part of a really ambitious program for Mattel. I mean, just last month, we learned that they were combining their film and television units, and there were 3 live-action films that Mattel has in the works. A live-action Masters of the Universe movie, a live-action Matchbox, and a live-action Hot Wheels. But this new Barbie, again, collaboration between Mattel and Illumination, is the only animated film that the company currently has in the works, though, or is willing to talk about. Though, did you see where they also have a Whack-A-Mole movie in the works? Which that's got to be animated, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, unless I don't know. Unless it's some kind of 80s style, Money Pit type comedy, which I could get behind that, but
okay.
Yeah, the slate is very ambitious. I don't know how you differentiate a Hot Wheels and a Matchbox movie. I guess Hot Wheels is more of a fantasy, and Matchbox is more reality based. But yeah, they're really going for it. I mean, we're dangerously getting into the studio space of Kool-Aid the movie, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned what is Mattel going to do to differentiate the Matchbox movie from the Hot Wheels movie. Well, John M. Chu, who directed last year's Wicked and its upcoming sequel, Wicked for Good, he's the one that Warner Brothers hired to helm this film. And I bring up Mr. Chu because he's going to be a very busy guy for the next few years. Did you see, the news, first of all, that broke about who's doing voice work for The Places You'll Go?
Yes, I had been privy to some of this information, but Josh Gad and Ariana Grande are leading that, and I've heard that the movie is really great.
Yeah.
You got new songs from Pasek and Paul, Jill Colton, who we love, who last directed Abominable for DreamWorks, and Pearl is directing with John, and I've heard it's great. I've heard it's really great. So,
very much looking forward to that. That arrives in theaters March 17, 2028. By the way, if you want to see Josh Gad in person before that, starting next weekend, August 1st through the 3rd, Mr. Gad will be on stage at the Hollywood Bowl as part of the all-star concert version of Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber's Jesus Christ Superstar. Did you see this? Josh is playing King Herod, and What I love about this is he's sharing the stage with Cynthia Erivo, who, of course, is Ariana's co-star in the movie version of Wicked. You know, she plays Elphaba to Ariana's Galinda. I got to tell you, Drew, I am very much looking forward to seeing Josh sing King Herod's song, which has one of the funniest, most blasphemous lyrics that Sir Tim Rice has ever written. At one point in the song, Herod turns to Jesus and says, "Prove to me that you're no fool. Walk across my swimming pool." Sadly, not going to be able to see this in person. Still not traveling due to Nancy's hip surgery. We're now 7 weeks into her 12-week recovery. But any chance you and Katie will get over there to see this?
I haven't talked to Josh about it. I would love to. I mean, the biggest news in Josh's life is that they adopted a new puppy, and that's really all that I care about. So I'm really more angling to meet Zeus, the new puppy, than anything else.
Wow.
Zeus, he's so cute. He's so cute. Anyway,
all right.
Yeah, that's my main focus. Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of focus, this is supposed to be an animation news podcast. So when we get back from this break, we'll talk a bit more about what's going on with movies and television. But first, this.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Just a little bit more movie-related animation news before Drew and I then pivot to talk about television. Remember how, Drew, once upon a time, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse was supposed to arrive in theaters back in, May 29th, 2024? Less than 12 months after Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse opened in theaters in June of 2023.
I have a hazy memory of that, Jim. I have a hazy memory.
Yeah, I know. But thanks to the writer's strike in 2023, then the actor's strike in 2024, the release date of Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse kept getting pushed further and further back. And most recently, the Sony Pictures Animation production had settled in on a June 4th, 2027 release date. Well, you can scratch that off your calendar, folks, because Beyond the Spider-Verse, its new release date, it's partially good news. It's still in the same month, June 2027. It's now some 3 weeks later, though, June 25th, again in that same year, 2027. And did you see Sony Pictures Animation's rationale for this 3-week pushback about the I
mean, I know the rationale they gave me when they sent me the news, but I also know the other factors involved, which, Jim, we didn't talk about it during our box office recap, but the movie that has also made almost $600 million at the global box office this summer is a movie called How to Train Your Dragon.
There we go.
And wouldn't you know it, Jim, there's a How to Train Your Dragon 2 opening in that same month in 2027. So
I did not put that together. All right, because
yes,
what Drew
by June 30th or whenever it's coming out, the Spider-Man, those IMAX screens will be open again.
Okay,
So-
now this makes sense because as Drew is alluding
Yes.
to, that Sony Pictures pointed to. Well, first of all, they said that they liked later in June because more kids would be out of school. But yeah, they did mention that more IMAX screens would be available, and I did not put it together that How to Train Your Dragon 2 would have eaten those screens. Interesting. See?
Yeah.
This is why we do this show with Drew. He's smarter than I am. Okay. Anyway, all right. And again, all right. So it's been delayed 3 years past its original release date, or the one that was announced for May 24th. But again, you got to stress the positive. Beyond the Spider-Verse is at least being released to theaters, which is more than we can say about Gennady Tartakovsky's Fixed. And all right, just sort of review the history of this R-rated raunchy adult animated film. Began production 3 years ago this month, July 22nd. Renegade Studios writing heard on that, and the goal was originally to have Fixed released into theaters in late 2023 by either Warner Brothers or New Line, right?
The distribution deal was with New Line Cinema, which is a division of Warner Brothers Discovery, and
Okay.
it was done on time. I mean, it's
Well,
we'll get to it, but it's been finished for 2 years.
Yeah. But it's important to remember, even before they began production in earnest, there was April of 2022, Discovery merged with Warner's Media. David Zaslav became CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, and somewhere along the line, he learned that their animation studio was making this raunchy adult comedy, and supposedly Zaslav not very enthusiastic about this, and so August of last year, we learned that New Line and by proxy Warner Brothers no longer interested in releasing Fixed. Distribution rights then reverted to Sony Pictures Animation. Is that because of Gennady's longtime association with them? I mean, they did.
Yeah,
all
I mean,
the hotel.
technically they produced it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, Renegade was the vendor, but Sony produced it.
Mm-hmm.
So they started shopping it, and 2 years ago, Netflix was not interested.
Yeah.
And then, earlier this year they changed their mind, which is great. I saw Dan Lin at something, and I went up to him and said, "Why don't you want Fixed?" Because I had seen the movie last year. A very kind Sony executive kind of said, "Listen, we want to know what you think of this movie." They put me in a conference room and said, "I'll see you in 90 minutes," kind of thing, and I loved it. So, and Dan Lin said, I don't know if it's going to fit with our kind of slate or whatever, but yeah.
It's so interesting you say that, because again, what's fascinating about Netflix is, they really leaned into the family-oriented animated films. Though what was interesting, in fact, I'm told it was the success of Invincible, that adult animated superhero thing over on Prime, that Skybound Entertainment and Amazon MGM Studios did, that kind of moved the needle. In fact, interesting bit of news there. Season 4 of that show isn't going to debut to 2026, but just last week we saw them, a fifth season before season 4 even drops.
I saw that. And what's interesting about that too, about how it relates to Fix, is that Fix is actually, unless there's like a huge response, which there could be, Fix is kind of being overseen by the TV, the TV team, not the theatrical team. So that's kind of interesting.
I agree. But it just, what's also fascinating here is that animation is kind of having a moment at Netflix on the back of a film, by the way, that Drew's been a champion of for quite some time now, the K-pop Demon Hunters. And did you see what that thing is doing, at least on the music side? I mean, what is it? It's the #1 movie soundtrack on Spotify. It's the first K-pop album album to ever be number one on both Apple's music chart, likewise the iTunes chart. What is it? 7 tracks from the same album are in the Billboard Top 100. And
Yeah.
so Netflix is suddenly, we love animation. We especially love animated musicals.
Well, it's also, I think it was number one on the Netflix chart for 4 weeks in a row, and it's charting towards being the most watched animated feature on Netflix, original animated feature ever.
Mm-hmm.
So let the record state, I knew that this was going to be the case. And I told Netflix, this movie rules and buckle up. And honestly, they were not ready.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, listen, Jim, as a lover of merch, go on the Netflix store.
Mm-hmm.
Every day there's new K-pop stuff that they're just like pulling out of the air. It's like, oh, soft goods is easy. Well, here's another T-shirt.
There we go.
But,
there we go.
Yeah.
Just throw them on the plane and get them over here.
But both K-pop and Fixed are Sony Pictures Animation productions, and it just, to me, shows you how great that this partnership is netting out. And there's a ton of stuff coming up. There's there's Motel Transylvania, the new series. There's a new Ghostbusters series, the Ghostbusters movie. Some things that we cannot talk about yet, but are certainly coming to Netflix in the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
And they use Sony so much as a vendor too. In Your Dreams, which comes out later this year, is Sony animated. CB's 2 is on its way, and other things. So yeah, it's a pretty great partnership there.
No, absolutely. And again, my only caveat, my only continuing complaint in regard to the world of streaming is the metrics we measure success by. It's one thing, for example, as part of Netflix celebrating, they're like, okay, KPop Demon Hunters has been watched over 80 million times. It's like, okay, that I understand. Whereas just this past week, we also got news about streaming numbers for the first half of 2025. And it turns out that from January to June, the top watched show was once again Bluey. Again, animated show for preschoolers. But then they give this metric that, again, I have trouble figuring out. It's Bluey was the big one because it was watched a total of 25,100,000,000 minutes. And how does that stack up against a 80 million viewing for K-pop? I mean, this is not apples to oranges. This is like Apple the fruit versus Apple the computer. I mean, how does anybody in this business go, that is an enormous success?
It's just about putting the biggest number out there that they can. I'm sure if they wanted to, they could chart how many minutes K-pop is doing, but yeah, I don't know. Everybody's just amazed. I did a Q&A with them for ASIFA last weekend, and everybody's just so over the moon about this. It's just, and it's such a wonderful surprise. So,
no, totally. But
yeah,
this is one of those moments when a rising tide floats all boats, because you're hearing about all these interesting things that are out there in animation. I mean, case in point, Harry and the Mutant Mid-Century Furniture. Did you hear about this new animated feature?
No.
This is a serious film. It's set in an alternate version of 1962, where radiation from nuclear weapons testing has accidentally awakened a brand new life form, which is sentient and moving mid-century modern furniture. And so Harry, a peculiar 10-year-old boy, must now join forces with a wise old recliner and a feisty ottoman to save their furniture friends from this film's villain, who is power-hungry Army General Frank Holzman. And before you say, that's a terrible idea for an animated feature, might I remind you of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, where we once all fell in love with Lumiere, Cogsworth, and Mrs. Potts, who were a walking, talking candelabra, mantle clock, and teapot. And interesting, Drew, this is animated feature headed for theatrical release, whereas The Rejects, brand new animated series for adults from Rick and Morty producer Rick Mitchell, and This, I have to say, Drew, the premise for the show I love. It reimagines Dr. John Watson, Sherlock Holmes' longtime partner and the chronicler of all his cases, as an openly gay man who is just recently had his heart broken by Sherlock. So looking to get a new start on life, and he separates from the world's most brilliant detective, and he surrounds himself with other great literary characters who previously played more of a supporting role. And these include the Lady of the Lake from The Legend of King Arthur, Friar Tuck from The Tale of Robin Hood, and then Tantor, the elephant from Tarzan. And I got to tell you, I love that Tantor is returning to animation. I still remember when Chris Buck and Kevin Lima were first developing Disney's animated version of Tarzan. They had this really interesting idea for that character, and it's because it said that elephants never forget. And so to Kevin and Chris's way of thinking, never being able to forget anything would make you extremely neurotic. So, and who back in the 90s was famous for playing, lovable losers who were extremely neurotic, a writer, director, performer, Woody Allen. And as the story went, Disney began conversations with Allen about coming on board Tarzan to voice Tantor. And they had a working relationship already. Allen had already co-starred in a Disney film with Bette Midler, the Paul Mazursky's Scene from a Mall, which got released in February 91. But as you know, Drew, negotiations were underway when Disney got word that Allen had signed to do a voice for DreamWorks' what was supposed to be their inaugural film, Ants. And Jeffrey Katzenberg had swooped in there and grabbed, Allen out from under Disney. But which is why in the end we got Wayne Knight, Newman from Seinfeld. He wound up voicing Tantor rather than Woody Allen. Anyway, back now to Rejects. The beauty part of this project is these oft overlooked literary characters, again, Dr. Watson, Friar Tuck, Lady of the Lake, Tantor, are then charged with stopping a threat that even Sherlock Holmes himself can't handle. And that just sounds like a killer premise for an animated series. Can't wait to see the finished product. But not to belabor the obvious, right now, any project that gets announced that employs animators, I am excited about, because you saw that news last week, Drew. $1.1 billion in cutting to funding to public broadcasting. And when you think about the number of animators who work on shows for preschoolers that are animated, that run on your local public broadcasting channel, I mean, this is going to have an impact. And let's be honest here, not just in the employment of animators, but when you think about the lower income families who actually rely on this programming to help their kids in regard to numbers, colors, letters, just an incredibly short-sighted decision. So
yeah, I recommend everyone read Street Gang, which was the history of Sesame Street.
Yes.
It's an absolutely wonderful book and really shows you how much of a kind of social project Sesame Street was, as much as anything. It really makes you appreciate, what they were trying to do in a really wonderful way. Just an absolutely fantastic book, a wonderful compliment to Brian J. Jones's Jim Henson biography as well.
True.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry. I know that was kind of a depressing topic to bring up. But when we get back from this break, we'll make an effort to lighten the mood here by talking about some of the animation-related panels that will be presented at this year's Comic-Con International down in San Diego. But first, this.
You open the Walmart app and boom! The Reebok and Hanes styles that keep your kiddos on their A game delivered in as fast as an hour. That's right, those comfy Hanes Performance Crew socks they love in the app. And the coolest shirts, shorts, hoodies, and leggings from Reebok? Yep, Walmart's got them. They'll feel so focused in their new gear they won't even notice you freaking out on the sidelines. Shop Reebok and Hanes in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new. Subject to availability, fees, and restrictions apply.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And we're back. All right, Drew. In years previous, I've always felt, I don't know, it just felt kind of mean to talk up all the cool panels and presentations that were going to be staged down at San Diego Convention Center as part of Comic-Con International. Because, again, if you didn't have official credentials, you couldn't get into the convention center. You couldn't experience any of these amazing panels and presentations. And then, to be completely honest, given how big the crowds are annually at San Diego Comic-Con, even then, if you haven't lined up hours in advance for some of the more popular presentations, there was just no way you were getting a seat to any of the panels. That's why whenever I talked with a Comic-Con newbie, I always say, well, have a plan B and a plan C. It might even be smart to have a plan D, just in case you get blocked out of your first three choices. But that said, and you're down in San Diego often enough for Comic-Con to have noticed that, like over the past decade, what with the rise of the Comic-Con campus idea, oddly enough, you can have a pretty good time down in San Diego over the, 3.5 days of this thing? 4? Without a credential, just wandering around stuff that's happening in like the Gaslight District, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many activations. There's a very cool Alien Earth activation that is happening at this year's convention that actually has 2 different kind of walkthroughs, depending on if you go during the day or at night. Which is really cool. So, I mean, there's stuff like that you can just wander around and do. And you can even shop, like we were talking about last week with Super 7's Godzilla Station. Not in the convention center, outside of the convention center, does not require a badge to go to. So there's stuff like that, And we were talking about the Michael Giacchino concert that's at the college and the conversation he's having with Pete Docter on Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you're in San Diego, you want to get those festivities started early.
There we go. There we go.
You got options.
Speaking of activation, so the Lilo and Stitch activation, and yes, I hate that word, that runs from 10 a.m. on Thursday, July 24th through 2 p.m. July 27th. And just so you know, this thing that happens in the gas lamp diagonal, that area adjacent to the Omni Hotel, right where 6th Avenue ends. It ends every night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. I guess Lilo has an early bedtime, but there's going to be Lilo and Stitch themed photo ops, interactive activities. I'm told that the animatronic Stitch that was previously used to promote this Dean Fleischer Camp film will be maybe making some appearances, and there will be free shaved ice for all who come by. And speaking of free food, if you're in the mood for some Texas barbecue, head on over to Parking Lot A, which is located at the Hilton San Diego Bayfront, right next to the convention center proper. Here, people in the vicinity can drop by a recreation of Hank Hill's backyard and snack on some barbecue, which I have to assume is going to be cooked on a propane powered grill. You could also
I hope so.
Yeah, well, there we go. Stick with the show. You can also help yourself to a cold can of Alamo water while you play classic yard games. And again, there will also be some King of the Hill photo ops. And just like with the Lilo and Stitch thing over at the Gaslight Diagonal, they will be doing giveaways of custom merch and exclusive prizes at the King of the Hill thing. And again, you don't need official credentials to do this. And the other thing worth mentioning is the people watching in San Diego for, from Wednesday through Sunday afternoon is just spectacular. It's worth it to get down there just to do that. On the other hand, if you do have official credentials this year event and are willing to brave the crowds in and around around the convention center. A couple of animation-related panels you might want to see. Thursday, July 24th in Hall H, beginning at 6:45. You can see Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park, Mike Judd, the creator of Beavis and Butthead, not to mention the co-creator of King of the Hill, and Andy Samberg, creator of Digimon. That said, Drew, okay, this is a 6:45 panel in Hall H. So how early do you think someone would need to get in line outside of Hall H in order to get into this?
I don't know. Maybe 5. I don't think it's going to be that crazy.
Really?
Maybe 4:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All
You'll
right.
be okay. You'll be okay. Yeah,
All right. All right. Drew's much more an optimist than I am. I was thinking, no later than mid-afternoon, but all right, 4 o'clock. Let's see what happens. But again, also remember, you're standing outside of the convention center, so bring a hat, some water, sunscreen, and a battery for your phone. And by the way, even if you're not in San Diego, I want to remind you, brand new season of South Park and Digimon debuts on Comedy Central the night before this big presentation at Hall H. That's Wednesday, July 23rd. Also, look, if you really, really, really want to catch something at Comic-Con, a good practice is to camp out. As in, get into the hall where the panel and presentation that you want to see later in the day is being presented, but get in there earlier, like hours earlier.
Oh God, you're giving me flashbacks, Jim.
Well,
of like sitting through some mediocre panel to wait for Marvel or whatever Hall H. Oy.
But you gotta. That's the thing. That Comic-Con is all about the sweat equity. If you put in the time and the effort, you get what you want. Now, mind you, the upside of camping out is, for example, the Indigo Ballroom at the Hilton San Diego Bayfront. If you're an animation fan and you were to grab a seat in this cavernous space, which holds 2,600 people, on Friday, July 25th, well, at 11 a.m., there's a Phineas and Ferb panel. At 1 p.m., there's a panel celebrating Season 8 of Rick and Morty. After that, 3 p.m., Solar Opposites panel. And finally, at 4, there's a King of the Hill panel. Now, the downside of doing that is if you do that, you can't be in room 6DE, where at 1:45 on Friday, there's a panel celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Peanuts comic strip. And then, of course, at 4:15, there's the Godzilla at 70 panel that Drew is moderating. And by the way,
That's right.
Who knew that Snoopy was older than Godzilla? I did not know that. And by the way, again, another reason you maybe want to be in room 6DE is that right across the way in room 6BCF is where they'll be holding a Lilo and Stitch panel, which will actually be moderated by Tia Carrera, the original voice of Donnie, and featured appearance by Chris Sanders, the creator, co-director of the original Lilo and Stitch, and still the current voice of Stitch. Now, of course, Mr. Taylor's got to catch a train back up to L.A. That same night. But if Drew had time to kill on Friday night and was still at the San Diego Convention Center, I'm betting you'd find him in room 5AB, where at 7:30 they're doing a retrospective of 25 years of Titmouse's craziest animation. And then right after that at 9 p.m. is the latest iteration of Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation. So,
oh man, now Jim, you're making me want to book my train. Good Lord, that's amazing.
Yeah, the Titmouse thing especially sounds amazing. Now, shifting to Saturday, July 26th. Again, if you're an animation fan, this time around you might want to park yourself in Ballroom 20 as early as possible. And again, good chance of getting into this thing, folks, because this room seats 3,000 people, but they're going to do basically a 5-hour block that celebrates Fox's Animation Domination programming block. So 10 a.m., Bob's Burgers, and they're going to be talking up the 300th episode arriving next season. At 11 a.m., panel on Futurama. 11:45, well, Matt Matt Groening just stays where he's seated because right after that, there's a Simpsons presentation. Then 12:45, it's American Dad. And finally, to wrap up this animation domination celebration at 1:30, panel looking forward to the next season of Family Guy. And by then, you've been sitting for 5 hours. You got to get up, stretch your legs. So might be a good time to head down to the show floor, walk around. Gotta warn you, though, that place is dangerous for your wallet. Every time I go there, I see something I did not know I needed.
Well, it's much more complicated this year because there's a whole exclusives portal that you have to get in line. And I don't know. Yeah.
Oy.
But yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. I have a little cheat sheet of things that I just want to pick up while I'm down there.
See, that's the thing. That was the other note. You have to prepare, and you got to be disciplined. You got to go in and figure, these are the things I am looking for. And as fun as it is to wander the floor and see amazing things. I mean, if you want the stuff, and in fact, that's the other hard reality is so many things sell out preview night or Friday. So if you're there by Saturday, Sunday, it's like, oh yeah, we had those.
Although Sunday, I will say, is maybe the best day to go to shop because people don't want to bring stuff home with them.
There we go.
So if you are looking for comics, graphic novels, collections, giant figurines, go on Sunday and talk them down so you can get the best deal, and they don't have to bring it back to Milwaukee or wherever they're coming from.
There we go.
Yeah.
That is the voice of experience. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, as we wrap up here, Drew is also the voice of authority that when it comes to the Mission Impossible movies, and wanted to ask a question, Drew, because Nancy and I have yet to see Final Reckoning, which and that was largely because her hip procedure was on May 20th, and this Tom Cruise film came out on May 23rd. Was just hearing that and wanted to hear if you'd heard something to the effect that Paramount hasn't gone on the record yet about this, but is it likely that we're going to see Final Reckoning streaming toward the end of August? Does that correlate with you?
I don't know if it's that soon because it's still in theaters. I would say and this is not any kind of inside information. This is based on just the release pattern of the other movies, but I would say maybe digital by October and then a physical release around Christmas. And I do know that the physical release is going to be loaded with special features. And so I would say, as a physical media, connoisseur, I would say that's the version to wait for. But that would be my guess.
Okay.
Right now, yeah.
And speaking of this particular film franchise, if you are not already listening to Drew's other podcast, Light the Fuse, which again is the official Mission Impossible podcast that Drew does with his other co-host, the equally talented Charles Hood, you're missing out on some truly great behind-the-scenes stories when it comes to modern Hollywood. And we were getting ready to push another podcast out the door the last time we talked. Has that happened yet?
Yeah. We got Katie O'Brien, who plays Kodiak, who is on the submarine with Tom. We have her episode out now, and then we are, preparing the finale of sorts very soon. So it might be this week, it might be next week, but yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of other podcasts, I here at Jim Hill Media, I have a few other shows we'd like you to check out. These include Disney Dish with Len Testa, the Epic Universal podcast I do with Eric Hersey, who produces a lot of the shows here at Jim Hill Media. Likewise, I Want That Too, the Disney Merch podcast, which I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you of Manufacturing the Magic. That's the themed entertainment history podcast we host here. That's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid, and a new episode of that excellent series will be posted this coming Saturday, July 26th. And sometime right after that, look for a brand new episode of Disney Unpacked. Just last week, Len Testa, veteran Imagineer Jim Schul, and I recorded a new installment of that video series for Patreon. This one shines a spotlight on Test Track at Epcot. And just so you know, we're already working on the August installment of Disney Unpacked, which will take a close look at the Main Street Opera House in Disneyland, which, as Drew just mentioned, the top of this week's show is now the home of Walt Disney: A Magical Life.
Can I tell you something that really annoys me about the Opera House now, too, that they did, is they took down one of my favorite photos of Jim Henson.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of that kind of inspirational thing. You walk through, it's like all these amazing people through history. Not there anymore, Jim.
Yeah, and tell me at least the blue sky stuff there is interesting. I mean, what is...
It's fine. You know what's interesting, Jim, is in the little like chamber before you go in, is I had never seen this piece of concept art from the Star Wars roller coaster that was proposed for Tomorrowland.
Yep.
That they have a shot of the X-Wing ride vehicle, which I have never seen before on that wall. So just take a look. Take some time before you go in.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was the one that was supposed to be inspired by Horizons, with the idea that, as you chugged up the load hill, you were supposed to, from your seat, hammer on the button to decide whether or not you were going to experience the Force side or go to the dark side, and then that would determine what show scenes you saw on that attraction. So
yeah.
Okay, got to check that out. Anyway, as we close up shop here, folks, if you could do Drew and I a favor, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just this show, Fine Tuning, but also Light the Fuse. And as we run for the curtain, Drew, social media wise, where can the nice folks find you?
X and Instagram, mostly Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt. That's it. Mostly.
All right. Myself, you can find me on Twitter, X, and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And okay, that's going to do it for this week, folks. On behalf of Mr. Taylor, thanks for listening to this week's Fine Tuning, and we will be back soon.